everyone, and welcome back to Silver Coin Podcast. It's been a while. It's been more than 2 years, if I recall correctly. With you today, as always, Gal, the lead developer and the marketing PR guy of the Silver Coin, and of course Lan, the usual guest, the usual co-host of the podcast, the game designer and the project lead. How are you, Lan?
Good. Nice to be back. Actually, missed this part, to be honest.
I also miss this. I really like doing these podcasts. Our focus was on other stuff and also a lot of things happening in the background, in our private lives. But I really enjoy doing podcasts, even though not many people listen to them. But when they do, they usually enjoyed it. So if they enjoy it, I enjoy it. So how has your day been?
Good. We had a walk with family. You were with me.
We're in the same house, by the way, now, just in the separate rooms. But and that's not happening every day because we live separate households. But today we're here, so that's cool. And you're also building the house, right? That's also something that's also relevant to the project because it takes a lot of your time away.
Yeah, but that's life. We all have our own stuff to do. In this period, I'm just building a house. I have also two small kids and stuff like that. So we are normal people in that sense. We each have our own stuff that is basically happening, and in the midst of all this, also this project. So, we are here to talk about not me building a house. We are here to talk about Silvercoin, and we decided we'll do this podcast at least once a month or so, depending on the time and so on. But we'll be covering different topics, and I think that those who wish to learn more will have the opportunity to do so. In the midst of all of this, I think we will also share some additional behind the curtain stuff. So should be fun.
Awesome. By the way, we also have a new setup for the podcast. I hope you guys enjoy it. I can switch between scenes, so when Lan is talking, you can see Lan, and when I'm talking, you can see me. But most of the time, we'll all be having a conversation, so it's going to be between us. But yeah, either way, we can jump to today's topic. We really contemplated what to talk about because there is a lot of things, in the air, a lot of questions from you guys. That's why we're also planning to do a Q&A where maybe we can tackle all those questions live and answer them then. So today's podcast, we really wanted to emphasize more of a content, something that isn't usually talked about that much, not in the updates, not in the Discord, because it's something that is happening not really behind the scenes, but it's small segments of the game, which is obviously relevant to a lot of you, but it's not something that is new or that has been changed a lot. Actually, it has. It has been changed. It has been worked on in the past few months. So that's also something we can maybe talk about. But that's characters, to skip the intro. Now we're going to talk about our characters. And Lan, can you tell us what the point of characters in Silvercoin is? I know it's a bit obvious, but give us a bit of a leeway, a bit of an introduction.
Yeah, so people playing games like this are usually playing some type of heroes, characters, or whatever. So it's about immersing yourself into this character and playing then the character throughout the game. It's not just a red player, blue player, or whatever. In this case is asymmetrical skills, and we have in total 9 characters now in the game. The last one basically being the people's choice during the stretch goals in Kickstarter. So they helped in creation of that, but maybe more about that when we reach that character, when we talk about it. Basically the point of the game is that you're playing this character and the play style is different depending on which character you're playing. Then also basically design wise, you need to then also have some kind of tools and stuff, how you basically balance those things out. Some of that I think we talked in the past, but basically it depends. If it's a competitive game, then of course that is a big designing point, and very much what a lot of time has been dedicated during the play test and stuff like that. But we have also then additional mechanics that help balancing out stuff, which is the auction mechanic at the beginning of the game. Because in Silvercoin you're not picking the character and say, oh look, I'm playing this guy. No. In competitive mode, when this matters, the balance and so on, you're bidding for the character. So if you think that this character is, I don't know, stronger and so on, then bid for it, and you're bidding with coins being victory points. So it's an additional layer to that. But when you're doing the solo co-op stuff, then it doesn't really matter. Then it's about you immersing yourself, going through the scenario with this character. But we have like 15 scenarios, and each scenario we basically play tested, and in those scenarios couple of characters are playable, the rest are not. Of course, that doesn't mean that you cannot go sandbox. If you want, you can play a character for that particular scenario, but it just means that we as designers went through play testings and said, look, these characters work well with this scenario. We are going to give you those for those scenarios. So some it's going to be because of the team, some it's going to be because of the gameplay's play balance and stuff like that. You can of course play around, but there are usually a few characters that for each scenario that you can pick, and we're gonna talk about that a bit also as we talk about the characters. Without further ado, I think you can maybe say a few words regarding that, and then we can just skip the part about the overall introduction and just go from one character to another, and then we can say a few more words in terms of game balance stuff, game design choices, mechanics and how they work and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. If I can add something to that, is basically, it's a role-playing game, right? And role-playing is a big part of our game, and we really tried to emphasize the uniqueness of the character. And what this means is that each time you play a new character, it's not just having new abilities and new ways of playing, but it's totally different play styles and totally different unique abilities that when you're playing that character, you're really going and saying like, oh, that's cool. I don't know, I went into the past and I changed something that I did, or I transformed into this monster and I have unique abilities now and no one else has this type of ability. It's not just you gain +1 experience whenever you do this, or this character is more magic focused so he gains 1 magic whenever he does that. Like there are certain small parts of this, but it's really about having a unique feeling and really immersing yourself when you're playing, when you're playing a magic type character, you really feel like you're playing a magic type character. You're one of the only ones who can either, teleport across the map, or who can create these super cool magic abilities, yada yada yada. So that's probably one of the most fun parts of the game, and it also adds to the replayability, which is abundant as it is. So without further ado, do you have like any order which you want to go, or?
Yeah, I basically just brought out our page that is being in the work. Thank you a bunch to Matitz once again for really hats off. He's investing a lot of time, because we are really just casually giving stuff to Matitz, because we have a lot of other things that are more important for us for the project, but he's basically taking this role as support for our webpage, and he's basically doing that. So he's updating the webpage, and I have just right now opened the testing link for the website, and I will just go as it is on the website. So starting with Chronomancer, I guess.
Chronomancer, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we should go like their name, roles, and a bit of their lore, and then we can talk about mechanics, how they are played, what are the unique abilities, maybe go into more in depth.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, starting with Chronomancer. Basically, each of the characters you have to know. It's not like just we just created these characters from our from thin air, but we did. But still, there is like some sense, some lore-ish stuff behind all of this. So they are incorporated in this world we are building, and which means that each character has its own birthplace, has its own name, has its own order that they belong to, or type of job that they're doing and stuff like that. We'll be talking about that. And starting with Chronomancer, his name is actually Vakash. And when I say Vakash, maybe I'm not pronouncing it in a correct manner, or maybe I do. But it's basically the region where he's from, the kingdom he's from, is Abaris, so the yellow kingdom on the map. And it's the entire kingdom is based more in that Mesopotamian feeling. The names of the places, like cities and stuff like that, is Gilgamesh, and those who know their Persian, Mesopotamic, history and stuff like that, they will find a lot of Easter eggs in on the map and in the lore and stuff like that. But coming back to Vakash, so he is from that region, which means that his name is spelled and pronounced basically like Persian style or whatever. He's dark skinned in terms of look, but you can look at the card. I hope that God will bring cards out as we do the podcast, so people can actually see the image also. But more importantly, he's a chronomancer. And chronomancer, being a chronomancer, if you look at his story and stuff like that, it will tell you that basically they're an ancient order in Abaris, which has this peculiar thing, which is they're often meditating, hanging from this unique bar, which looks like a fitness bar. It's not. He's hanging from it like head down, and while he's meditating on the bar, which is something that they do. The bar is actually called a Talnar bar, so it's a name for the bar. And on that bar, they every single time the chronomancer are hanging, they are having these visions of the past, of the future, depending. They come to them like some type of dreams. But every single time a chronomancer will have this experience on the Talnar, on the bar, they will etch that experience with a symbol after the meditation is done. But the meditations themselves are like a spiritual process, and it's important for them because they use this for like prophecies and stuff like that, because they do not see this future clearly. It's not like he sees a movie what is going to happen and he knows. No, it's more about he sees glimpses of the future, like pieces of the puzzles, like a broken glass, that he then tries to put together what those things actually mean and what's going to happen. And the same or very similar to the past, so they are not seeing things clearly. So that's why there is a skill to it. There is training to this thing, so that you can read the omens and the signs and the pictures in your head clearly. And in Vakash's case, yeah, he like left the order. He's still a chronomancer, but he uses the ability that was given to him, and that is basically that he trained his life, his entire life. He's using it for monster hunting. That's basically the thing. It's not like the chronomancers are monster hunters by nature and so on. No, Vakash is a chronomancer, but he uses the gift, or rather the skill, to hunt monsters, because you can imagine it's quite useful when you can see certain elements of the future or even the past, to get the better picture of how to hunt monsters and stuff like that. But I'm going now really deep into the lore. I will not be doing so with each character, just giving you a glimpse of how each character is incorporated in this thing. And then, game wise, Bakash basically is played in a sense that he has this additional element, which we called the Chronomancer's board, where basically he has these time cubes, which is just a fancy word for a flow. And this is going to be a repeated topic that we are talking about. Everything that is happening in this game, like the story, the lore, and so on, is connected to this flow. What is flow? Flow is like an energy that is, but it's hard to explain in this short time. But it's basically, if you read the lore, if you read the stories and so on, you will understand even scenarios. Yeah, you will understand more and more about how this world of Atosia and Silver Coin Age of Monster Hunter actually works, and why these characters are special. They are not heroes per se, especially because they are doing it for the coins. Yeah, they are not heroes, the traditional sense, but basically they're just really good at using the flow. Not every person can use the flow, but it's present within all of us, or not all of us. The people of Atosia have it. I don't have it, but but basically, they are using this flow, which is all around Atosia, and in
It's
some
ever
cases,
present,
in some cases, the amount of flow on certain months and so on will increase, and then the abilities of the character will become more strong, and that's why we have those, flow rounds and stuff like that. We are not going into that today, but basically, like you said very well, some characters are more magical type, and some characters are more physical type. That's how we separate them. And if you basically go and take a look at their character cards within the game, you will see that basically they have a limit of how much certain type of flow they can gather in, when they are gathering that flow. That's the easiest way to say it. But basically we have like those magical types, those hybrid types per baby, but each one of those is definitely more aligned to the physical or to the magical side. And in Bakash's case, that is definitely the magical side, which means that he's a bit limited in how he gathers the physical flow, but he's really good or better in getting the magical flow out. And then when he does, he uses that magical flow to basically
time travel.
To try and travel, yes, to put those magical flow cubes on his Chronomancer's board, and when they come to the Chronomancer's board, they are called time cubes at that point. And then he has the two parts of his board. One is for the past and one is for the future. And players then will decide on what to invest. Will they invest into the past? Will they invest into the future? Into both? But basically, he will use those time cubes to do his abilities for the past or for the future, which can be taking a glimpse into the cards for the future, which basically will help him in many different ways. We'll not go into details, but in that sense. Or he will use it for abilities of the past, where he will maybe travel somewhere, but then will take this option to go back in time to be at the start where he started that turning. Or maybe to use an action and then that other players are also using, because normally in the game you cannot you have some certain actions that basically when a player comes and takes that action, you cannot put your action token on that space. But Bakash, for example, with that past ability can, because in a sense he was there before you or he actually uses that ability in that sense. So we use that lore and that specific thing of that character to actually go and then bring it out into the mechanics of the game. And this was like a really, really long opening for Bakash. But I just wanted maybe to focus more, because he's the first character, on how those characters work and why, for example, Bakash is special and what is his mission. So he's a chronomancer using his abilities as a chronomancer to do the monster hunting to the best of his abilities. How did I do that?
You did well. You did well. Like I think they got the gist of it, especially the lore wise. He's definitely a very unique character. I think his poster ability is definitely the time walking. You know, the basically going back into the time and reverting his actions, not really actions, but his movement to return to the area. I don't know. Like basically time reversal, so to say. Others are like you said, like glimpse into the future, or so he's definitely a very manipulative character and very versatile character, very flexible character. Fun fact: he's also the character I played the least. Not just because not that I dislike his playstyle, because I do like his playstyle and it's very unique. It's very, I don't know how to say, focused on later stages of the game. So the later you go, the more time cubes you accumulate, and the more options you have to basically each round you can manipulate past, future, depending on what your needs are. Right? So he's very versatile. But for example, our graphical designer Maki, I think Vakash is one of his favorite characters, if not the favorite. I'm not sure.
Yes.
We can ask him, but I think he's definitely the guy who played him the most. And I didn't play him because I didn't want to, but because he was really trying to play him. He even had the fifth ability, which we now removed because it was really broken, but we kind of reorganized it. But yeah, Vakash and the Chronomancer itself, he's also the guy who is present in our Kickstarter video, who is fighting the dragon, by the way. So that's also a cool thing.
Yeah, good.
But it's cool. He's definitely also played the least from my side because he's also I think it's the only character who is not present in any scenario, at least not recommended by us, because scenarios are usually focused on shorter games, on having specific goals in mind, and playing Chronomancer, who really needs time to get things going, is not ideal. Now, you can play him in any scenario you want. Obviously, that's up to you and your playstyle and your preferences. But because we are focusing on playtesting and trying to have optimal characters for each scenario, Chronomancer is not present in any of them. And he's the only one. Hence, I, as someone who is playtesting the most, I think, is also not playing Vakash as much as I would want to. So in the next competitive games, I'm definitely trying to get hands on Vakash to get a feel for him. But yeah, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, two things I wanted to add. Like, one is that, like, there is a small possibility of Vakash being in one of the scenarios, but it will depend on how playtesting goes. And I'm talking about for Hexen being one scenario. Yeah, but we will see how playtesting goes and so on, because we are doing those things, and there is a reason. Like, we want to have things balanced and interesting enough, and so on and so forth. I hope he makes the cut. Like, let's say it like that. But yeah, he's the only one that scenario wise things are
shaky.
Yeah, shaky depending on the scenario and so on. Especially because it's really hard to play test Vakash with the way he can use his abilities in like so many different ways. So he becomes really tricky. But that's not the reason. Usually the reason is that scenario games usually go for 1 game year, while competitive games go usually for 2 game years. And Vakash, like I said, is a long-term one. He develops in the
later stages of the game.
Yeah, later stages of the game. Yeah. And he's also a more advanced character, I would say. So, like, if you're a new player,
harder to play, yeah.
Yeah, harder to play. More things to know about the game, to play him well and stuff like that. So that, and the last thing I wanted to say about him, but that's just me and loving how things work. We have, like, next to the lore stories about kingdoms, about characters and so on, we also have these like short stories which are talking about the land and stuff like that. And just wanted to say that, like, there is one story in particular which talks about Vakash's brother and how he lost Vakash and how Vakash went and do the monster hunting and stuff like that. So people who want to dwell into the lore and so on will learn more about the characters as they read the lore itself. So I just find that cool. I love those type of things. So shout out for Vakash and his brother.
Cool. Okay, let's go to the next character. Who do you have?
Yeah. Who Matitz has in this layout? Yeah, Matitz has mercenary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Want to start?
Sure. As a Leia, or I was as if you actually
We were just checking her pronunciation, by the way, because English pronunciation of Azalea is horrible. So we went to the French one, and it's the correct one because
French one actually is Azalea, like that. So it has to be more French because she's from that part of the. So Azalea would be actually correct. Yeah. Azalea actually she um, is from the Lisbon part of the Atosia, so the Green Kingdom, where they're more French-like. Everything is about flowers there. Lis Blanc itself, it means white lily. So the name of the kingdom, and Lilac being the capital. So Azalea, sorry, is also it also is about it's a name for the flower in French. So yeah, those type of things, and yeah, she's a mercenary. What does that actually mean? Lore-wise, that means that Lise Blanc is very famous for how rich they are, but also for their mercenary groups. And they basically have these huge mercenary groups, a lot of them, and they are landing armies to different kingdoms, not just kingdoms of Atosia, because Atosia is not the only continent. There are others, and there are lands beyond those 6 that we are basically having in the game. And they are landing those mercenary soldiers to fight and then getting cash. So yeah, extremely rich. And Azalea was part of one of these mercenary groups. Similar to Vakash, at one point she decided that her skills are maybe more suited to do some other things. She was part of the so-called Thorns company. This was like a mercenary company, and Azalea has this unique shield on her, Shield of Gloriosa, it is called. And each mercenary group actually has this special. They have these special shields and stuff like that, and they have these jewels on them. And those jewels have some kind of properties that are a bit magical in nature, but more importantly, that they basically are like a symbol for each of the company. So yeah, really top soldiers in the world of Atosia, really fearsome armies they each hold. And basically, Azalea was part of this one company, and she basically, as her short story will also basically tell you, her lore story, that she basically left the company, which is desertation.
So she's a deserter, huh?
She's a deserter, and that's not taken kindly actually usually. But if you want to read more about that, it's all on our website. But basically, she decided, like, why would she get those not pennies, but small amounts of money when she can go and use her skills for monster hunting and get a lot more. So here you can already see that, like, these people are not doing it. Some are, but not all, are not doing it to save humanity and because they're really good, kind-hearted people and so on. No, they do it for the coins. A lot of them are doing it for the coins. They see it like a job, and if they save lives and so on, some of them are happy to do that also. Yeah, but it's not like most of them are not guided by good, kind-hearted nature, which I think is a lot more human-like, unfortunately. But we do our jobs, and in this sense, they do their jobs as a monster hunters. So yeah, this is a background of Azalea, and why she does it and how she does it, and so on. But as a character, she is a lot about the color dice that we also have in the game.
Special mechanic, yeah.
Yeah, special mechanic, which is dice drafting, and she starts with a color die, and then she can use, because there are color dice of three different colors: green, red, and blue, and as you know, each of those basically is more for one type of thing, and she has like these different abilities that she can do with her die, because she has like this small handicap that she has a bit less movement than the rest of the characters, which kind of is also normal. I mean, look at her in that shiny armor of his, not so easy to travel in that shit. But you know, then she can negate those minuses for traveling and so on with one of those abilities. Then she has this Shield of Gloriosa, which can help her in combat. That's another ability that she has, and most importantly, she can switch dices and stuff like that with her main ability. So in that sense, very battle-driven character, very straightforward in that sense, but then less straightforward in how she decides to use her dice and how players are going to decide to play her. Which dice are they going to collect? Are they going to collect all of the dice and then decide as the game goes how they're going to operate? But yeah, that would be about Azalea.
Good summary. Yeah, she's really battle focused, if you ask me. So I mean, she really excels, and she's one of the more player friendly characters. She's very straightforward to play, not the easiest, but it also changed, and she's more flexible now with a lot of changes that we implemented in the past year. So previously, first of all, it's really cool to start with the color die. Previously, she did not. So it was really a race against time, and especially with more players, when this gets more and more contested, it gets tricky, because she doesn't only want one die, she wants more dice, because when she has more dice, she has more opportunities to both excel in combat and to use more of her abilities, especially because she had to previously allocate a lot of her colored dice to a specific card and gain basically different unique abilities. But now we kind of changed that, because it wasn't that healthy for the game. It wasn't healthy that she had to basically go and collect all the dice in the first 6 months of the game, 6 rounds of the game, because then everyone else had to, or they were left with no dice. So now she starts with the die. Secondly, for her flow round, she still needs colored dice, but now these colored dice are not allocated to that. She's basically using her colored dice that she already has. And by the way, she starts with 1, which means that regardless of when the floor round occurs, she will have a die to play her round to get her unique abilities. So, and her floor round now, it's super cool. I won't go into too much detail, but basically she can decide, she can throw all her color die and decide whichever result she wants. And each color die has its own unique ability. So I think the red one is giving her stamina, which is basically negating her negative base ability, which means moving 1 less than everyone else. So with stamina, she can not only move 1 less, but you can decide when to use the stamina, and if you use a lot of stamina at once, you can even move more than others in that one movement, because she's durable in that sense. Or she can use it to charge up her Shield of Gloriosa, which is a special improvement card, a special character improvement card, which is also starts with, and it's basically like a super protection magic or something like that, basically a secondary protection magic, and it's also really cool. And the third one is gaining her reputation, because mercenaries are very famous for what they do, and she can use her renown basically to get more reputation and basically scale there. So there's a lot of cool things she can do there. And the third thing is that we basically, like Lan said, we change how colored dice work. Not really work, but basically what they refer to, because previously all the colored dice were random. It didn't really matter if you had a red one, if you had a green one, or if you had a blue one. The only thing that mattered was which cards you had. So if you had a card that only used a red die, then you obviously wanted a red die. Or if you fought a monster that is weaker against a green die, then you obviously wanted a green die. But other than that, it was irrelevant, right? But now all the dice has their own point, right? So it also means that the mercenary, which is basically gathering them the most, has own playstyles depending on which she wants to focus on, or if she wants to be basically all over the place. So I think the red ones are more about endurance, about vitality. The blue ones are more focused on magic and magical abilities. So magic is in the not magical flow, but just magic. So, and the third one is the trickery and speed, agility. So it's really three different playstyles, and you can go whichever one you want, and you can also start with whichever one you want. So which means that basically you can decide how you want your game to go. You can still focus on magic and have this, because a lot of fire magic, for example, or other magic still use color dice. But more on that, I'm going into too much detail. But I really like how Mercenary as a character is being played. It's very straightforward, but now she became more flexible and a lot more options to her, which means that this also means that there is a higher ceiling to her, right? Previously, she was just a really strong character for fighting. So you could go and fight monsters early on with the help of your colored die, with the help of your base ability and stuff like that. But now you can have a lot of different options and a lot of different alternatives. So I will leave it at that. We can talk about their abilities more in depth, but I don't think that's the point. You can really explore that by yourself when you get the game into your hands. But it's just the premise of what this character is, right? So, and I think the mercenary is one of the 2 or 3 most battle-focused characters. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. She's more of a physical character when we were talking about, leaning to one way or the other. And like you said, the color dice and the focus about that, she brings that out from the game. Because right now, the game definitely has a lot more focus on those as well. Before they were more in the background. We changed that, improvement cards and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really crazy, like how in such a long development, like we use those informations that we gathered through the years and so on. We tweak some stuff and so on, and then we are happy when we get things done. And before, she was more convoluted in that sense, even though she's a direct character. Now she's more elegant in that sense, and also has different pathways on how you want to play her. So yeah,
I'm really happy with the changes. It's really quality
yes,
of life. By the way, we are almost at the 40-minute mark, so I think we need to fasten the pace with
a
the
bit.
other 7 characters. But we were just talking that maybe this podcast episode might be like half an hour long. Obviously, that was a stretch because you can see how much we can talk about each character, and we're not even going into detail about the lore, about the abilities. So let's
Yeah.
go to the third one.
Yeah. So the third one here is Natural Chaos. The most badass looking one, I would say. But
Yeah,
no, cool guy. Uh, his area, so where he's from, he's actually from Kingdom of Morahan. So that's the purple kingdom to the south. And he belongs to the order of chaos, or the order of people who kind of are responsible for some of the mess that is going on in Atosia right now, because they are really exploring and trying to master this flow for their own purposes, in this sense that they are using it for magical stuff, like creating portals, which is what he does really well. So yeah, basically, uh, it all is about doing that with him. And I didn't even mention his name. Yeah, his name is Shael Ka. So that's the name of our natural chaos character, and he's a more magical affinity character. And his special ability is creating these portals all over the map. And also he's quite good at using magic. He can do a lot of magical stuff a lot cheaper than other players, because he doesn't need to spend as much magical flow. But his main uniqueness is, using those portals, spamming those portals throughout the game. As the game goes on, the more portals he has means that he can just, jump around the entire Atosia in an instant, and, use that to his advantage. Um, so yeah, how did I do for, shortening everything really fast?
Yeah, I think that's a good pace, by the way. So, no, you did good. I like Natural Chaos. He's also one of the more straightforward characters to play, so he's really beginner friendly. So, I suggest picking him up in your first games, because there's not a lot going on. You're doing portals, and everything you're doing is magic based, and it's cheaper for you, so you can do more of that stuff. But yeah, he's super cool. He is also one of our poster boys of Silvercoin, with the cool Venetian mask design and with the portals. He also has a cool miniature, and he's super cool to play. It's really, like, for a perspective, the map of Atosia, for the map you're going to get in your games, is massive. And not just massive in terms of table presence, it's massive in the sandbox sense. So going from one place to the other, you can go with ship routes or something like that, but going by foot with horse from like the southern parts of Morahan to the northern parts of Oldamore, which you must do sometimes because you're forced to do it, or you're doing it like mid game, it takes a lot of time. I don't have the exact number right now, but it's basically like 4 months, 5 months at the least, if you're having good weather, or if you're prepared, if you have a horse and stuff like that. So it's a massive map, and in this massive map you're moving a lot. So having the ability to have portals wherever you want, and these portals are permanent, and you can use them at any time, which also means that he's really good at scaling, right? So he's also good at the later stages of the game because he has these portals basically across the entire continent, and he can basically move to that portal in one movement spot, and that's a huge deal. And which means that he's also a very versatile, not versatile character as a lot of things he can do, but a very a character that can adapt to a lot of situations, depending on, oh, there is a mission on the south, on the northern parts of the continent, I can go there in one spot, because most of the time you're forced to look for job opportunities for things that are going around you across the region, across the kingdom that you're currently at, or at least the neighboring kingdoms, and you're doing stuff there, and you're slowly moving in whichever direction you want. But he doesn't care about that. He really can be at all places at the same time almost. So that would be basically my take on him. He's also a character we can plug into any scenario we want almost, because he also has almost no downsides to him, right? He's easy to play. He has he's a very mobile character. Doesn't have a lot of battle-oriented abilities, unless you count like the reduction of the cost for using special abilities. But a cool character. I like to play him a lot.
Yeah. Moving on, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are off to Seeker actually next. So we have two characters in a row, which are all about what you just said about traveling, about traversing this huge map of Atosia. And this is a cool point that you pointed out. The map is really huge, and we wanted it like that. We designed it in such a way we could do it easily, like some other games that also have these like huge maps. But then design wise, you're like really tested as a designer of how to make it simple, so that you can just move from one end to the map to the other, and how you can always do stuff, and how the travel part is just visual and stuff like that. No, we wanted that sense of travel, that sense of distance in Silvercoin Age of Monster Hunters, and we wanted to make it feel important, that players decide for themselves on what regions they explore, why they're leaving for other greener pastures or whatever. And then some characters just travel better, just do it better. And one of those is definitely the Seeker. And when I talk about Seeker, his name is Brageland, if I would say it in a Nordic kind of way. But yeah, he comes actually from the area beyond the map. If you look for to Voldemort, to the Blue Kingdom, on far north, there are mountains, and beyond those mountains, there are still regions, and he comes from there. He's the Seeker, and they're called like that because they're more tribal in their nature, and they're always searching for this spiritual thing, which is a gift of life. They call Tilgangur, and basically, from very young age, they travel a lot, and then very early they leave their home and just go beyond in the world, and you can see it in when you look at his picture and so on. The guy is really really packed for travel. So his abilities are basically that, like Al says, like you can travel on land, you can travel via sea, or you can also teleport in Silver Coin Age of Monster Hunters. But when you travel on land, you mostly travel via roads, fastest way of traveling, I guess. But there are also so-called hidden paths, like hidden path through the desert, hidden paths to mountains, hidden path through marshes, and those can be also traversed. But usually for characters, usually that can only happen if you gather certain improvement card that lets you basically traverse those. But for Seeker it's different. He can travel hidden paths immediately, those giving him access to areas otherwise harder to traverse, taking longer time to reach there, but without the longer setup that, for example, in this case, natural chaos would need. But that's not his only ability. He's also a guy who can plan his attacks depending on the night day cycles and stuff like that, because there are game mechanics that basically do stuff like that basically, as months turns go on, you need to also be looking at, do I want to attack the creature at night, at the day, and so on. Well, in this case, he doesn't care, or rather he has an option to really bypass that and makes it easier for him. And also then his token, which allows him to negate weather effects without going back to the air magic, which also deals with those type of things. So he's really equipped for travel. He's really equipped for dealing with the elements, dealing with the right time to attack and stuff like that. Also quite basic in how he's used. However, I would say very hard to master. So he has these layers on top of it, but he's more of a physical character also, but not as much as, for example, the mercenary and so on. So
he's more of a hybrid, but a bit more of physical side. But he's also the only character who cannot own or buy a horse, which is also it sounds bad. It sounds really bad, but this really forces him, like lore-wise, he's basically one with the world, one with the nature. So he's really knows everything there is to know about the world, the weather, and everything, right? So he knows when to attack, he knows when to go out and travel, so there is no rain to hinder him. He knows every path, and that's basically the gist of his character, right? And when we're talking about mobility characters, right, a lot of people might think, okay, I rather play combat character, in this world you obviously battle monsters and you want to gather coins, so obviously I want to play a battle character so I can fight monsters with more ease and gather coins easily, and obviously I'm going to win. Sure, that's one playstyle, but the point of our game is to gather the most coins, and how you get to those coins is surely through battle, but traveling is a big part of the game. And really, how you get coins is by optimizing your journey. So mobility characters really shine and really excel in optimizing the journey to get to those monsters, right? And the battle characters excel in battling and might struggle more in that optimizing the path towards the battle. So that's really one way to think about those characters. So mobility characters can be really strong, if not stronger in some cases. So yeah, Seeker is really cool. Him not having a horse really forces him to really look for those hidden paths, to really because all hidden paths are shortcuts, and some are even really help you out because you have to go all around the mountains to get to the other side or to get to the other kingdom, and he can just walk through those mountains through that hidden mountain path that he only can traverse unless someone else has the special card. So he's really unique and he can be really strong if you know how to use him. The -2 movement by not having a horse kind of hurts him, but this also means that he does not have to spend coins to buy a horse. So there's upsides to that as well. So I'll leave it at that with Seeker, and yeah, he's also very unique in that sense.
Yeah, looks straightforward, but actually far from it, I would say. And a character I really like playing, by the way. I really like playing the Seeker. Just, my cup of tea.
So do I. Okay. Moving on.
Yeah, halfway through. We are at a point where we meet Rea. And who is Rea? Rea is shapeshifter. So a lot to be said about shapeshifting and so on and so forth. But basically, she is from Kingdom of Fabula. That is the Red Kingdom to the west. And as the story goes, as the lore goes, early on she found out there is something unusual about her. Also, the people who took her in also noticed that. She got abandoned at an early stage of her life by her father and mother. Kind of got scared about her abilities. So basically, she was raised in the woods, as so to speak, or actually, not just so to speak. She was really raised in the woods by the elders that basically knew about her gift. The Donum Tenebris, and it's a Latin saying, but all people in Fabula in that kingdom are using Latin to speak, so you will see that type of element there. But basically, Donum Tenebris, which means the gift of darkness, that's basically her shape-shifting ability, and so she is a character that will hunt for monsters, because they give her coins and stuff like that. However, she will also get more powerful as she will slay those monsters. As with every monster she will slay and take the trophy, she will basically be able then to use that monster to be able to transform into that monster during the fights. So that's what shapeshifting is about. There is this one cool scenario which also touches upon that a bit, but without me spoiling the fun. Really cool stuff. So yeah, that's shapeshifting in a bottle. That's rare. So anything you would like to add?
Yeah, she's probably one of the most unique, if not the most unique character we have, and a very complex character to play. If you take her and play her in your first go, you might struggle a bit, because it's really hard to really adapt. She is probably the most versatile character there is, because she can, in terms of battle at least, because she can take whichever form she wants of the monster she already slain. And she's also probably one of the strongest characters, and I think her win percentage was the highest when we played her. and had to be nerfed a couple of times. But one of the reasons for that is that she cannot buy potions, strength potions and night potions, which basically give you strength during the battles. And this means that she cannot gain strength during the battle via normal way, which is like using potions, and the other way is obviously to like prepare for the battle and look for the weaknesses and strengths of the monster, right? So how she does it is basically different. She uses the strength of the monster she transforms into. So if she transforms into a golem and the golem gets more powerful during the drought or during the clear day, because obviously he needs sun to the ash golem to become stronger, if she fights during the clear weather or during the drought, she can take this ability and she basically transforms into Ash Golem. She becomes stronger because of the drought or because she's in a certain kingdom, and she will gain strength this way. So it's really hard to hard. It can be more difficult to kind of coordinate how to get this strength and how to optimize all the modifiers to get the situation perfect for you, to choose the right monster for this specific situation. But this also means that you're saving a lot of coins. And I really mean a lot of coins, because especially later on in the games, when you're fighting stronger monsters, level 2, level 3 monsters, you're usually, when you're playing any other character, you're drinking quite a lot of potions. You might be stacking up on 3 potions for the battle, or for 2 potions for the battle, or 1 potion for the battle, and 1 potion, strength potion, costs 60 coins. 2 strength potions is 120. If you add like a night potion, which is 100 coins, this can be like up to 220 coins per battle. And she cannot use that, which is a disadvantage. But adding everything else she can do, this saves her a lot of coins. And in competitive, you win by having the most coins. So that was a really strong ability, and we had to take a look about that. But yeah, I'll stop at this. She's basically one of the coolest characters we have, if you ask me. So give her a try, and you'll see. It's fun.
Yep. So moving on from Rhea, we reach Necromancer. And in this case, it's Kishara. She's also from Kingdom of Abaris. You wanted to add something?
No, I wanted to add that she's probably my favorite character. But I will talk about that later. So I mean, when it's my turn. So move on.
It's okay. It's too much of a monologue anyway. We can discuss stuff. But anyway, she's a necromancer, Kishara, and she's from a kingdom of Abaris. So she's a neighbor of the chronomancer, same kingdom. And necromancers are really cool lore-wise. A bit different than you would think how they operate. Of course, they have the typical necromancer stuff going on, but I will not go too deep into the lore. But she's basically doing the necromancy thing, and basically she has this cool ability that she has in game wise, mechanic wise. She has these necro cards, which are like her zombies and stuff that she uses, and she herself has very low health, but basically she uses those necro cards, zombies, as puppets to do her bidding. She basically can, you have a horse, she can zombify the horse, if you get me, get the skeleton horse, and that horse becomes a bit unique and a bit stronger and stuff like that. She can put different type of zombies to do different type of things. Some may be used more as a mid shield, others may be used to use cool abilities. Everything will of course require her to use flow, in this case magic flow, but she's really good at that also, at getting magic flow. So very magic. This is definitely a magic driven character, and she also learns magic easier than other characters. So she can learn all 4 schools of magic. Well, I say 4 schools. There are technically 5 schools, but in general there are 4 schools of magic: air, fire magic, protection magic, and also spirit magic. She has a easier time doing that. But yeah, a really cool character. I agree. So yeah, anything you want to add?
Nah, she's super cool. So everything from her miniature to her art to the mechanics of how she does things. I just love the entire concept of the necromancer. She's also super complex to play. So she is the only character with like 2 health points instead of 6, which seems really scary at first. And also the way her zombies, her necro cards work is a bit different because each necro card is unique, has its own unique abilities, adds something else to the game. Either it's giving her more resources, either it's giving her more movement, either it's used during the battle as her mid shield, or it can even teleport her, or it can be used as a kamikaze, as a self-destruct button to damage the monsters. So you're really versatile during the battle with your necro cards, but each necro card requires its own magic. So you have to travel the world, learn these magic cards as fast as you can, so you can really summon all those necros. Because if you only have one magic, you learned, then you can only summon one or maybe 2 necro cards, and you're missing out on a lot of possibilities. And without those necro cards, it's really risky. It's really scary to go into fights having only 2 health points. Also, it's really difficult to reroll because she can only reroll if she's using her as a shield, or only one of her necro cards is able to reroll dice, right? Because each time you battle a monster, you can reroll to basically, in case you roll lower than the anticipated or the required strength, you can reroll to try your luck again. But with Necromancer, it's more difficult to do that. Or if you want to do that, she has to take the damage. So it's a really double-edged sword, and it's you have to play her a couple of times, or at least you have to know a bit of the game mechanics of how the game works, the world works, in order to really optimize her. But man, when you play her and when you get her going, this is probably also one of the strongest characters in the late game. When you have all those necros, all those zombies out with you and battling and using all of her cool abilities, and basically she cannot be touched because you can just throw those necros as mid shield and just summon them up in the next round, and you're gathering so many resources because each time you kill monsters you gain more resources because of one of her necros, and you're moving further because of one of her necros. It's so fun, and you have to try it out. But yeah, it's a bit more on the difficult side. Moving on.
Yeah, moving on. We are coming to the Berserker. In this case, it's Fiella.
Piella.
Yeah, yeah. So again, this time we are actually in the kingdom of Oldemor, so the Blue Kingdom. She's from there, and Berserkers. Oh man, the Berserkers. There is an entire scenario dedicated to Fiella. An entire scenario basically teaching you, showing you how lore-wise Berserkers work and how Fiella works. Because part of her you will be basically, playing within different scenarios and in competitive and so on. And she's a berserker, and basically her ability is like this. She has this special die called the berserker die, and as she gets damaged, wounded, her die suddenly activates, or rather her berserk mode activates, and she is able to use that die to then get stronger, hit harder and stuff like that. So the more she's damaged, kind of she uses that to gather a special resource called rage, which is just kind of a fancy way to say that she uses physical flow to convert it in this her resource called rage, and then she can use that rage for different abilities she has. But basically she is a very battle driven character. She can hit really hard, especially as damage. So you play her, you really want to get damaged. You don't want to be at full health, really, not that much anyway. And that's how she's played. And but that's not the entire story of Fiella. Of course not. it's the same for the all the characters, but we just do not have the option in a normal game, or even in a scenario game that's not really about her, but about the scenario and the different tasks you may have and how to beat the game, the scenario, and so on. uh, Design wise, we do not have time to really take a deep dive into characters, naturally. But there is this one scenario called, a giant and a shadow, um, which focuses on Fiella and her essence of being a berserker and what being a berserker actually means from young age to how they also discover that they have this gift or curse or whatever you want to say it, and that they have to learn to live with it, and not everyone is born with it, but those who are, people in the north actually, you know they kind of do it a Spartan way, the hard cold way of like saying, okay, cool, you have this gift, now you will have this journey, this task you will have to complete, and you will have to complete it, and you will have to at the same time deal with what is inside of you. And what's inside of her is actually, we call it the shadow, and it's like she's like this kind of split personality.
Bipolar.
That shadow, yeah, that shadow is constantly telling her things, constantly nagging her, and each berserker has this shadow. It's a bit different for everyone, but in that scenario, you really take a dive into that, because the shadow can consume Fiala, and if the shadow consumes the berserker, overtakes her, uh, they become really, the berserker, from some movies, the uncontained rage and stuff like that. So basically, her strength is this rage, and this rage is actually, the strength within her, the shadow. And the more she taps into that, the stronger she becomes. But the more she taps into that, the more there is a danger that it will overtake her. And if it does, then she's like a mad dog that people in the north will basically put down. They will literally kill those people, because they are too dangerous to the society. They cannot be controlled anymore. They do not even have the common sense anymore. They become monsters in a sense. And as you learn about Autosia and things and how flow works, magical flow, physical flow, and so on, you basically see how the flow is behind it all, how monsters were created by different creatures being overwhelmed with flow and thus turning into these monsters, and how characters are these, special figures that have these abilities and so on, all because they basically have learned to control that flow. And if they are not able to control that flow, then they become the monsters themselves. And in this case, in that scenario, you are dealing with that. You're dealing with focus and task of the scenario of how to become a berserker. And to become a berserker, you have this like task you have to do. You have to go to the world, hunt monsters and so on and so forth. And then you have this final trial where they will test you and check if you really are able to control this beast, this shadow inside of you. And then basically you will pass the trial or not. If not, you're off. But if you pass it, then you go for this final challenge, so this bigger monster that you have to fight, and then you overcome it. But it's so freaking cool, at least to me, that in this scenario, like, I as a designer had this chance to tap into this lore on how we envisioned, on how I envisioned berserkers work, and how basically, like, for me it's so cool, like when we do the scenarios, and um, you have these scenario cards and stuff like that. And in that scenario cards you have some of the lore, some of the dialogues and stuff like that, depending on what is happening. But in this case, in shadows and giant and a shadow, you basically have this, the shadow talking to Fiella, constantly nagging her, um, uh, you know pushing her buttons, trying to, in a sense, um, make sure that Fiala kind of fails, because the shadow, it can work in a synergy, or it wants to kind of overtake the person, because then the shadow is free and can do whatever they want without being stopped by the person that is over basically handling the joystick, if one can say it like that. And that is so freaking cool to me, how through that scenario, like, she interacts with the shadow, like, has this, like, shadow is constantly having this, like, smartass remarks, sarcasm and stuff like that. And so freaking cool to me, like, in like game wise, mechanic wise, uh, she's cool character. Maybe not my favorite, not one of those favorites of mine, but when it comes to, like, delving deep, when it comes to about really learning what berserkers are, and in this scenario, like, playing with that shadow card beside you, where you have this shadow, and the shadow is the source of your power, but you cannot tap too much into the source of that power, but you want to, and that keeping the balance, but then also this cool lore stuff happening. Then I'm like, in that at that moment, I'm like a little kid, like, in love in this berserker, in the essence of this character. And boy, it's cool. Like, maybe, no, not maybe, definitely I'm subjective, like 100% I'm subjective, and not the right guy to ask. Like, players will then be,
The judges.
yeah, the judge, be the judges, and say, look, no, look, man, no offense, but this character is lame, or whatever. They can say that, but till that point, please allow me to have fun. So freaking cool, Berserker. Like, no, that's it for mine. Obviously, it's a physical character and so on. So now your page, say whatever you want.
No,
Just smile on my face when I talk about those type of things, because people really don't have a clue of how cool of a game this is. And believe me, we want to bring it to you, but we want to do it justice, and we want to do it the right way, and then say, here you go, burn it if you want to, but I doubt you will. That's it. Sorry. Now you talk about Berserker, about Piella.
I try to be short, but yeah, I most definitely agree. I think this is by far the coolest character lore-wise. Not only the character story, there's also a short story dedicated to Berserker. There is also a scenario dedicated to her, and if I can, like, suggest anything, is to read those stories, to play this scenario, because it's super cool. Like Lam said, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but this is basically my favorite scenario, because it's really the prime example of how our game focuses on theme and on lore, and how this theme and lore interconnects with all the mechanics, even though they might seem abstract and you're rolling the dice and you're like not feeling immersed by rolling the dice. Like, everything connected to that really focuses on the theme and the lore, and to immerse yourself. And when you're playing Berserker, oh boy, are you immersing yourself. And if you like playing on the edge, and if it's really like this double-edged character, you want to take damage, you want to be low health. When you're in the berserk mode, fighting with rage, you're super strong, but you can damage yourself further. So you want to be cautious of how low you are, and how how much are you willing to risk during the battles, because obviously the lower you are, the less health you have, the less chances of failure you have. Or so super cool character. I'll stop right here, because enough has been said about Berserker. I love her. I definitely love her, and also like to play her a lot. So yeah, that would be my point of view. On to the next character. How many do we have? Two more, right?
Two more.
Two more, yeah.
The next one is Husar. And shout out to my real life friend who shares the name with this guy, Radoslav. As the name implies, Slavic in nature, but the region itself, where it comes from, is actually mixed. So the Black Kingdom of Jorvik is actually there is an inspiration, historical inspiration for that region, from the Viking invasion to the British Isles, and how that came to be, how they came with the army, and with the horses, how they played an important role and so on. But I will not go into that too much. But the region itself is Germanic and Slavic mix, and there is like this vast fields of prairies where horses roam, and horses are the name of the game when it comes to hussars. Very straightforward character, the most basic characters in a sense of how it operates. I would say if you are like a very Euro-like player, this is a go-to character for you, because it's all about optimizing the actions, optimizing how you do things, and in this case, very travel focused character once again. He needs to get the horse, of course. Without the horse, no, whatever, not really a hussar, but he gets the horse, then he can travel further than any kind of character, and he has that special flow ability which lets him reset all of the actions, and people are like, what? Yeah, now you can take all three actions again if you want in a flow round. Of course, you cannot all the time because it requires to spend resources, in this case the physical flow and so on, but still cool. You can do more actions than the other players. You have, like, if you think about how game mechanic wise things work, you say, okay, there are like in a normal competitive game, for example, there are like okay, 24 rounds, and 24 rounds we have two main actions and then the bonus actions that you can take, so that's minimum of 48 actions plus the additional 24 that you can take as a bonus action. But this guy, every flow round will have an option to do more, and the more actions you do, the more efficient you can be, the more stuff you can do, and yeah, you can bet your ass that then you can have get more coins than the other players, or at least have the opportunity to do so. But other than that, very straightforward. No those special stuff that he can do that others cannot, and not in that traditional sense of game-wise sense. Just the mechanics that he does are very optimal. He has like also this card. He can use this special action on his card, where again his movement is super efficient and more efficient than for the other players and so on. And lore-wise, cool. Like, there are not many games that use hussar, which are freaking cool knights. Hussars are freaking cool. Like, shout out to Poland and countries that where hussars were roaming, but basically really cool looking. But not that many users of those in board games. Of course there are, but not many. And we decided, yeah, this character is gonna be a hussar. So, like, one of the first characters created, actually. Back then it was called the rider. Lame.
Yeah.
Game-wise, development-wise, everything is lame at the beginning. Then you add the cool names and the lore behind it and stuff like that. But this guy is hussar. This is about the hussar, and I will leave you off with this one thing that again shows on how we do things. And this is the story that Gal probably heard, and I talked about to different type of people's many occasions. And the reason I tell it is just how we do stuff, or how I do stuff in this case. This was like one time I was working on something on Silvercoin. It was like 2 years ago, whatever. And all of a sudden I'm like, I don't know, I want to read the story, the lore of characters, and for no particular reason, because I just love those type of things, and because it's good that I know things and how things connect and interconnect. I went and read the Hussar story. I'm reading the Hussar story. Okay, cool. And all of a sudden I'm like, no, something is not okay. And like my girlfriend comes, and like I think we had like lunchtime or whatever. She's like, oh, it's gonna be lunchtime and so on. I'm like, just wait. And I spent the next, I don't know, half an hour to 1 hour doing this one in her eyes, stupid thing. What I did is, in the story of Husar, there's like this small bit where it explained like how he looks and stuff, and he has this helmet, and he puts the helmet on, and I'm like, when I was reading the story, but that's not right. I need to describe like what type of helmets did hussars have. Like, what did they had inside of the helmet? Like, did they use the fur and stuff like that, or did they use some other type of material? I need to know. And I all of a sudden start doing research, and I go to internet and I start doing research on hussars more and so on. And after I'm done, like after 45 minutes or whatever, I go back to that Word file for Hussar story, and I'm like add like, I don't know, 4 or 5 words to the entire story of like, no, this is the type of material that was used here, and this is a bit better. Yes, okay, I'm cool. And I'm like back to my girlfriend. I was like, is lunch still ready? Like, she's like all pissed off and stuff. But just wanted to say, like, I always remember this when I play this character, when I see this character and so on, that like each character has so much love and details going into those characters. And for a hussar freaking helmet and whatever, like, we spent 1 hour or whatever, and this has nothing to do with game mechanics or whatever, but all those little details in the end, I think
They matter.
yeah, they maybe don't matter for 1 hour, but I don't know. I like doing it. I love this game. So yeah, this was about Husar. God, sorry, your page.
No worries. No, those details do matter, and it hurts when people say that everything is AI generated and the stories are AI generated, especially because I know how much effort you put into this. Obviously, you help with AI to have this better storytelling mechanic to especially because we're not native speakers, right? And because there can be things that are said and written can be much more epically written if you like use things like how famous writers write it, or this fantasy world. So like AI is going to detect that it was rewritten or some of the words are something that humans would never use. But hey, people have their own opinions, and we want you to know that like lore and theme is something that is one of the highest priorities of the game, because it means so much to us. It means so much to Lan, who is mostly the guy who is writing everything. So this is just the disclaimer, not just regarding the Hussar, but regarding everything, the scenario, each event, yada yada yada. But yeah, regarding the Hussar, he's probably the simplest character we have. He's not flashy in any way or sense. He maybe he doesn't have like the most unique abilities out of the characters, but he's much needed character. And like Lan said, people are going to enjoy playing him just because he's simple, he's very straightforward, he's beginner friendly, and he has some cool tools that other characters do not. So you still have this unique feeling when you're playing him. Everything is regarding his horse and regarding the movement and the mobility, and we mentioned how mobility matters in the game. So that's Hussar. I'm not personally the biggest fan of him because I like the flashy abilities and I like the extra asymmetrical unique stuff, but for those of you, especially the Eurogamers, as Lan said, who wants to have like this one way of playing and like trying to optimize, the Hussar is for you, and he has cool lore. So yeah, moving on to the last character, which is also probably one of my favorites. Like, I'm always contemplating like the Necromancer or the community character Spellblade. And Spellblade may not sound, that unique regarding what it does. Necromancer raises her own zombies. The Chronomancer travels in time. Shapeshifter shapeshifts into the characters. Spellblade conjures her blades, right? And okay, what's the unique part about her? How can we mechanically make her unique? Dan, you can take over and let us know, and I'll add my cherry on top in the end, because she's probably one of my 2 favorite characters, if not even the favorite one. So yeah, go on.
Yeah. First of all, thank you guys for choosing this character. When you were, this was a fan created collaboration with the fans on how we do this. in the end, this name was chosen, or this type of character was chosen, and off we go creating the ninth character. And fun fact, during the development phase, before the Kickstarter and so on, we had like 15 or a bit less or thereabout. That's why also initiative numbers, when you will look at the character cards, you will see strange numbers, like it will not just be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will be like 1, then the 2 will be missing, and the 3 will be there, and so on. That's because some characters got thrown out from the development phase. Plus, for future, if there's going to be any further expansions, we have these slots to fill in. So yeah, that's the reason for that. We had like the character, the druid, and stuff like that. So we had other characters, cool characters, but doesn't matter. Now we are back focused to Spellblade Land. Yeah, so when I decided to design this character and so on, I was thinking about like the niches, the things, the slots that we need to fill, that are different, unique wise, and how to play the game. What is different? What type of players will be having playing the game? What those players will be maybe missing? What they would like to experience playing and so on. And for her specifically, the name of the game was basically trying to reduce the luck factor. We had many mechanics in the game that do that. Of course, every single time when you will have dice rolling, you will have a luck factor. Then you will have resources and other ways of dealing with that will try to mitigate that, and so on and so forth and so on. But some people really hate dice rolling, and maybe those people didn't buy this game. Okay, cool. But maybe there are still some people that will be like, okay, I will dice roll because this game is cool and I like to play it and so on, but will not enjoy that part of the game. Well, Spellblade is the character for you because she doesn't use battle dice. She can still use the color dice, and for those improvement cards, and for fire magic, for example, you need color dice and stuff like that. So she can still use color dice. However, her main battle arsenal are not going to be the battle dice, the white dice that used to battle. She will instead have her own deck of cards. And fun fact, long ago, when we were developing the game, firstly, we didn't have the dice rolling, we have battle decks. And we, in the development process, threw it out because of many reasons. I will not go into that right now. But Spellblade reintroduces the...
We do have the podcast episode regarding the battle deck. If you're interested about it, sorry to interrupt you. Go on.
No, it's cool. So yeah, she has this special deck of cards, and in that deck, you will have the strength of the cards, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and whatever, replacing the numbers on the dice. But it will not be like a straightforward battle deck. Instead, each card will have like the value, but it will also have like, not each card, but almost each card will have like its own tweak, like its own ability, that she can use to manipulate that battle deck. Like, I don't know, grab another card from the deck, replace this card with another card, increase the value of this card. Those type of tweaks that she can do. But what is more cool, on her flow rounds, she will be able to add special, unique, powerful cards to that battle deck of hers. And thus, she will build her deck even more powerful. And those cards, actually thematically wise, are her spell blades. And or spell weapons, let's say it like that. The reason she's called a Spellblade is because her favorite two conjured weapons are those Spellblades that you can see on her art and so on. And really cool art, by the way. Hats off to her. And anyway, her three weapons will be like this: whip, spirit whip, or whatever that she can use. And there is a one way that you can go about it. There are two cards used for the spell whip. The second one will be like this spell sword that you can use. Two cards for that. And the third one are the spell blades that she's known for. Um, but when the flow round will come, the players will choose which of those three decks or these three paths they will be taking. Are they going to add the spell whip to their her battle deck? Are they going to add the spell sword or the spell blade? Each will have its own uniqueness and strength and weakness and so on, and then she will build her deck, and then she will use it to destroy monsters and stuff like that, because she is one of the strongest characters when it comes to fighting. But basically, at the beginning, she will be a bit weaker with her initial battle deck, but will have more luck under control because she can, use those cards and knows which cards already were out. So she knows that, I don't know, if weaker cards were there at the beginning, stronger ones are coming from behind. But she can also use this reroll function that other characters have, but instead of the reroll, she will just reshuffle her battle deck and then start over if she wants to. But basically, on top of that, she will be adding those special, really strong, unique cards, and then she will, wreak havoc on the battlefield, and so on and so forth. And her lore, she's from Morahan, the Purple Kingdom, and her story was the last one, which was like actually, I don't know, this month or really like not long ago.
Yeah.
Her story was written, and the reason it was not written so long was because we waited until this character was fully developed and how we wanted her to develop. And when we developed these things, like after the Kickstarter, we went and then people chose Spellblade and so on, and you say, okay, you add one character, what's a big fuss, like what do you need 10 years to develop this character? Listen, this is not so simple. First, you need to have a good idea, you need to sharpen the idea, you need to make it fit well into the game. Then you need to compare it to the other characters and make it work in a competitive environment and so on and so forth. And then it needs to be tested and checked out for all those 15 different scenarios and where it fits, where it doesn't, and so on. And then if need be, retested and blah blah blah. So yeah, this is not so simple, guys, and or at least not if you want to do it well. And after we had those things checked, we were like, okay, we had this under wraps, we know how this character works, we know what we want. So she's that character from purple region of Morahan, dancing as she goes with her magic conjured blades. Gal, take over. Oh, one final thing, sorry, that I said before. There is this one really cool scenario, maybe my favorite scenario, called Enigma. Also, shout out to you people back in the game, that we created for through fans choosing which type of scenario they want, the backers. And this scenario is a blast. And in that scenario, she is one of the 4 possible characters that you can play. And I always remember, whenever I see this picture and so on, I imagine that image from that scenario prologue when they enter that hall with the king up above those 24 steps of Morahan, and she enters with her grace and beauty and so on. I always remember that part of it, and yeah, she's a stunning woman. Arok, you drew her well. That's it. You go, Gal.
Yeah, first of all, shout out to Justin for the suggested idea, and not just that, for pushing us every single time, because this art was adjusted countless of times. I lost count how many times it was adjusted, and rightfully so, because obviously it's a community character. We want to do it as like however you choose her to be, right? So we listened to all the ideas. I really like the Arabic style of drawing of the Arabian night behind her, of her clothes, how she's dancing, how her hair looks, everything that you guys suggested, and it was really a blast. But like tackling numerous things at the same time, like it's not always your primary objective, to fix the same art 10, 20, 15 times. Especially to Rogue, who also took over a lot of graphical design at the same time. This took a lot of time, and it's painful when you're doing something. You invest a lot of time, and then you have to redo it, and you have to redo it, and you have to fix it, and it's still not good enough, and it's frustrating, and I get that. But because you guys kept pushing, and because you guys kept telling us, now her art is probably the prettiest we have across every art we have of the characters, and I absolutely adore it. And the second thing is her design, because I absolutely love her design. I was always a fan of the battle decks when we used to have them back as a mechanic. I completely understand why we removed it. There was a lot of discussion, and it really check out that podcast episode when me and Lan talk about the why we choose dice and not battle decks, and why this is important. But playing her, it's so unique. I can't describe how unique it is to play her. It was so hard to balance. She's so strong. She's super strong. She was probably the character that was nerfed the most amount of times. Like each time we had another playtest, Lan was like, "Hey guys, I changed a few of her cards, basically lowering certain numbers because this can't be happening again, and she can't be that strong." And we played it, and she was super strong, and we're like, "Okay, we need to tweak her a bit again, and we have to tweak her a bit again." And we changed some of the cards, her spell cards that were like some of the abilities, etc. But man, when you're playing her, when you have this battle deck, and when you're adding each flow round, you're like looking at all those possible cards that you can add, and you're adding them, and you're reshuffling at some point, and you're waiting how you're going to. And it's still a game of luck, obviously, because you can be drawing bad cards, right? And as Lan said at the beginning, your odds are not that in your favor, right? But with this reroll mechanic and how it works with her, you can always reshuffle, right? And this also means when you're doing a good job, or when you're lucky, when you're like drawing good cards, good numbers, and you're beating the monster, and you reshuffle and you reset the entire. They're not just bad cards, like the bad numbers. You reshuffle all the good cards back, and it's like this super cool feeling when you're doing. Like, sure, it can still happen that you might be unlucky, and the cards and all the combinations are not. But that's why there are her abilities. Because even like the worse the card is, the lower the number is, the better the ability usually. You can either replace the card, you can draw another one, you cannot take damage, yada yada yada. She's so versatile with her how she fights, and it's so super unique, not rolling the dice, but just like drawing from the battle deck. Putting under the table, saying, okay, 1 + 5 is 6, the monster strength is 7, but this one allows me to draw another card, and I draw another card, and it's a 2, and now I have more than 7, and I deal damage. So usually you still need resources and stuff, but I don't know, I freaking love it when I play Spellblade. So yeah, my two favorite characters, Spellblade, Necromancer. For the last remark, Lan, do you have your favorite character? Because I see that we're almost 2 hours long, so we'll wrap it up in 2 minutes, I swear. So just who's your favorite character, and the ending remark, maybe what our next podcast is going to be about, and then see you next time.
Yeah. You gave me this assignment before we do this podcast, and I was like thinking hard about like what I'm going to answer, and my answer is there is no favorite character. There are some that I enjoy playing a bit more because it's just about what type of player I am. Basically, I designed all of them in a sense that like I enjoy playing them. So there is actually no favorite character, and I just love mixing. I like playing one, then I would like to shift to another. It's just the way I am. Yeah. Sorry, boring answer. This is
answer. Okay.
And you?
Yeah, for me I also like to play because I'm play testing so many times. I played all of the characters numerous times, so every single one of them is fun to play, is unique to play, and you really have to give it a go. That's my personal opinion. Even if you enjoy I don't know, playing simple characters and you'll only play Hussar and maybe you'll play Natural Chaos and that's it, right? Give it a go. Give it a try. Try some battle-oriented characters. Try some versatile characters. Try even the more complex characters like Necromancer, the Chronomancer. You'll have a blast. Me personally, I really enjoy Necromancer. I really enjoy Spellblade because of her unique style of battle. But it's hard to choose favorites. So now you put me on the bad spot because I have favorites and you don't. But that's just life, I guess. And with that, we're concluding the episode. Next time, we'll talk. We have a lot of topics to cover. One of the topics we were thinking about doing is regarding the monsters, because there are 30 unique monsters, and it's really, this is really the charm of the game. Is you're
30 in the base game. But
base
scenario,
game and also scenarios.
40+.
Yeah, 40 plus unique monsters, correct. So this is really the gem of the game. The monster fighting, how to prepare for those monsters. So it's going to be a blast. But one last shout out, do join the Discord server. Do share any idea for potential podcast episodes. What would you like to hear? We can talk about that also in the live Q&A section. But basically, please join the Discord. We are there now more or less daily, or at least weekly, answering to your questions, giving like smaller updates, and we're also up to taking suggestions for the future podcast episodes. So yeah, we'll be there. This episode will be a very long one. Usually they're going to be under 1 hour, so like 30 to 60 minutes. But yeah, like it's been a long time since we recorded, so I guess we deserved like a 2-hour episode, so you have time to listen to it while you're stuck in traffic, I guess. Okay, that's it from my side. Any last remarks from your side?
No, just try to stay positive, guys. Those who like the project, who like, check it out and, follow us and so on. I think that those of you will enjoy this part. It doesn't matter. Probably you even like it more that it's longer. So stay positive, because I think that this is something special, and we like talking about the game because we love it, and hope you will love this episode also, because I will probably rewatch it myself, because just I like
It's fun, yeah.
to check things that we do and stuff like that. And we are taking our time, our free time, to do this. So yeah, definitely love about this. We are not doing any PR stunts or whatever, because we already funded stuff like that. But we do this because we love it. Because if people want to learn about more stuff, we are happy to give them options for that. It's just that we also need to balance our real lives and stuff like that, so apologies for that. But like Gal says, join the Discord channel if you're not there already. If you want to take a bigger part of following us and stuff like that, and share your thoughts. And soon, in like 2 weeks or whatever, we'll be doing the live questions and answers, meaning on Discord channel. We'll try to include the backers, the people who want to ask us questions, what questions about whatever. It can be even personal nature. I don't mind. Doesn't really matter about the project in general. That's the gist of it. But we will answer about that. And if there will be no one, and we will just be me and Gal there or whatever,
we'll do another podcast episode. I'm joking.
And then my thought is like, okay, Gal will then ask questions, and I will maybe ask questions of Gal, and we will wrap it up, and I will say, okay, no more live and questions and answers, because people don't really join, but we will do it once at least, and then if it will be something that people will join and take part of, we will do more of them in the future. So that's basically it. We will put a portion of our time definitely to engage with the community, something that we didn't do a good job, especially in the lately or in the last period of time, because it does take time. What is this now, 2 hours or whatever? It takes time to prepare this podcast, and then edit it, to put the video out and so on. Just podcast or whatever. And also, Gal, in very soon, we'll also be doing another playthrough of another scenario. We have All Infestation already out there on YouTube, but that's been basically the only one, because also it takes a lot of time to do that. But we're gonna do that also and see if people like that also. So yeah, definitely a lot of options if you want to engage with us, if you want to check what's going on in the project. But other than that, we are back to finishing the project, to place testing the shit out of every scenario and every thing that we need to play test. We are entering the last stage, which is basically, you know, doing the scenario books and the rule books, which is a task graphically and also writing wise and so on. We have everything written more or less, but we need to put it in right form. We need to put graphical designs next to it, make it ordered and so on. And these are big books, they are not short books. So yeah, in the meantime, we will be doing the play testing and so on. So that's kind of an idea and plan here. So we need to go now. Try to see if anyone still misses us. And do the dinner part and getting kids to bed because it's
Late.
8 o'clock here already. So those type of things. Yeah, you probably saw how the background changed through the
Yeah.
through the entire getting nighttime already. So yeah, take care, guys, and we'll be back soon because we love doing it for us.
Yeah.
If for you.
Okay, see you next time and enjoy.